Hello, good afternoon, everybody. It's a lovely Thursday we got going on here. Welcome to the Talk-Ons Show, college football podcast, where we are professionally unprofessional and consistently inconsistent. Today, we're going to be talking about our previews and picks for the slate of games. Here, I have my co host, Lane Limpin, and I am your other co-host, Cam Scatterboys, aka Cam, Lane Limpin being Brother Chase. So now we're gonna talk about the
Brother,
slate
I'm
of
not
games we got
associated
coming
with
up.
you.
We gotta cut that music off. We're gonna talk about the games coming up this weekend. Surprisingly, there are probably going to be some unexpected ones we talk about, but most people probably understand there's not too much to talk about on this weekend.
Well, obviously nothing to preface, I guess. Whether or not the games end up being good or not, that's to be decided this
I mean,
weekend.
there's definitely good
Uh,
games. Don't get us wrong. There's good games, and there's some games with conference title implications, which has playoff implications. So that's something to talk about. But yeah, a little background for our name choices today. So we got Cam Scatterboys because our boy Cam Scatterbo of Arizona State in top 10 in the nation in running backs. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
a
Uh,
little that thing he does. I don't know what that is. I
yeah,
don't know if it's like a tick or
and that's the main reason we focus so much on him because I mean he's kind of an unexpected star, more or less. He's a really good player, but it when we watch him play, there's like this thing he does. I don't know if it's a tick like Tourette's or something like that, which we're not here to like make fun of it or anything, but it's just interesting. It caught our eye and made us kind of like made him memorable, I guess. Um, aside from the fact of him being a great running back. Sorry, guys. All right, what about you, Lane? You talk about your name?
So I'm Lane Limpin. I'm infamous for being the coach of an undisclosed university. I believe the city is, like Oxford or something like that. But Lane Limpin. I'm really good at faking injuries. I fake a lot of them. I tell my players to get down, and I'm proud of it too. I'm very proud of it. So
And we brought that up because just recently the SEC um, enacted a new rule against faking injuries, which you know can make things kind of complicated. I guess
which
it's a
I'm
good
angry.
thing.
I'm going to be going. I'm going to be calling Sankey and complaining because I
Lane,
need my
calm down,
players
Lane.
to make as
Calm
many
down,
injuries
Lane.
as possible.
Calm down. It's okay. Just
This is
win.
mutiny.
Just win the game, Lane. Just win the game. Like when you play big games, Lane, just win. Stop
I'm
losing.
playing another undisclosed team that for some reason I'm wearing a hat of.
uh, and maybe another version of those hats comes out after it's all said and done this season. But we'll see. We got a lot of good teams playing for the title this
We'll
year.
see. But yes, I guess once again, just in case people are new, yes, I know I'm obviously wearing a hat, and it's obvious like I'm a fan of a team now. But we've disclosed in past episodes that we are Georgia fans, so um, you know, I just like
But we are professionally unbiased professionals.
so
Keep that in mind. All right.
we're
Well,
winning everything, and every other team sucks compared to them. So,
you can't say that.
anyways,
Oh, Lane.
Georgia's not even in our top. Actually, they're not even on our number one spot. I got water on my glasses. This is just wonderful.
Stop
Anyways, continue.
crying. Stop crying about the rule change, Lane. It's okay. You could
I
just
just
win by playing football.
I'm just so angry.
And just um
$50,000 is a lot of money for a fake injury.
anyway, and obviously Cam,
Even though I make 30 million a year, he doesn't make that much a year, but
even though you made me lose my train of thought. Yeah, and Cam Scatabo be making boys scatter when he carries that ball. So yeah, there we go.
all
Anyway,
right.
we could move on to our games for this
6 minutes
weekend.
on the intro. Good
This is
time so far.
oh,
Anyways, I guess we just go ahead and get straight into the games. We're doing previews and picks. We're going to be doing what we usually do on Thursdays. Well, when we make the
when
podcast.
we're
So,
actually on schedule, but we're
and this is the
professionally.
first time in like 2 weeks that we've put out both episodes. So,
Yeah, making a
good.
milestone. Well, I guess we're doing okay. Um, we're gonna try. I guess we're gonna reach for another goal that we have yet to accomplish, which we're not on track doing so far. But we're gonna do it today.
All right. Anyways, so we got 5 games, four like just games that we're gonna talk through. We each are gonna pick two, and then we'll both talk about what we think is the game of the week, and both make a prediction on that. So
Our typical format when we actually do release a previews and picks
yeah,
episode.
so
So what's the
consistently
first
inconsistent.
game? I'll let you go first, Lane.
Okay, well, first game I think we can talk about if it's mine. Then Colorado at Texas Tech, number 20. Colorado now that the playoff rankings are out. Yeah, so this one I think is going to be interesting just because again, this is a Big 12 game, kind of has implications in the conference, and also Colorado, they're ranked number 20, which means that they're not too far from gracing the possibly gracing the playoff. So any win for them is important, and Texas Tech is coming off a big win against, well, a good win. It wasn't big and by a lot, but it was a big win for them because they beat an undefeated number 11 Iowa State. So I think this is going to be. I think it'll be a decent challenge. I think Texas Tech is always a decent team. I think it'll be a decent challenge for Colorado. So and they're also at Texas Tech, which for some reason teams seem to struggle at Texas Tech fairly often. So there
What is the
is,
matchup looking like though?
well, we say this. I think it's mainly for this one. It's just sentiment and the fact that like Texas Tech has an okay rushing offense, and we know that like Colorado does not have a good rushing defense, or it's not great. They rarely ever have a great rushing defense.
Texas Tech has
So
Taj Boyd, or Taj Brooks. I kept calling him Taj Boyd. Taj Brooks, one of the best running backs in the country, and it's important to note.
yeah, he's good, but as a whole, Texas Tech, their team kind of fall like they're still only like 63rd in rushing. I will admit with Texas Tech, I don't have a lot of visual um, representation for them. It's mainly just statistical, but going based off statistics, their defense is pretty bad, and Colorado's offense, especially passing offense, is very good. Obviously, with Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter in that lineup, and all the other crazy weapons that Colorado has at the receiver position. Um, Texas Tech is allowing over 300 yards a game passing, and Colorado is achieving over 300 yards a game passing. So I think Colorado's probably got this one handily for the most part, but I'm gonna sort of pull or put brakes on that a little bit, um, just because it's going to be in Texas Tech, um, and
You got
Colorado's
a you've got
also,
a you've got a good like pass offense versus bad pass defense, and good
yeah,
rush offense versus bad rush defense. It's going to be a weird game.
yeah.
I think the line of scrimmage is really going to be the biggest factor. I mean, we know kind of where Colorado stands, but
Not
what
I
do you
mean, the pass
think?
protection's been better this season, still not great. Shadur still kinda had to run for his life in, some games, but also Colorado's a little more battle hardened, I think, than Texas Tech. They had a close game against Kansas State. Texas Tech's really only good game is Iowa State, and granted, they did win, but I didn't think Iowa State was all that great. I think they were a little overrated. I think Colorado takes Iowa State as well.
And which we'll
I
talk about Iowa State too, because there's a lot of just interjecting quickly. There's a lot of we the games we picked mainly because of the conference title implications, the pathway to the conference titles, and ergo playoff seeds and things. So that's what the games. That's why we picked the games that we did. And honestly, the Big 12 has a lot of like we kind of figure BYU is gonna like they're set in stone. So we think for the Big 12 title game, but the contender, the second spot for the Big 12 title game is just kind of
Yeah.
up for
It's
grabs.
sort of
And
like a
that's
tie
why
between
these
Iowa State and Colorado right
right.
now, and that's why this is a big deal to me is 'cause, obviously this is, I think, probably most likely a good chance it could be Colorado's do or die. I think any Big 12 game coming up for them because of how close it is
Yeah.
a big deal.
And
But
they have a chance to get in the playoff, which is crazy. So
I think with
they got a
who
lot to
they
play for.
have, and I think Coach Prime is probably going to go in with that mentality, known that hey, we got to win this, because I think taking Colorado to a Big 12 championship in his second season would be huge for the program and him. So I think they're gonna. I think just through sentiment and just because I just don't see Texas Tech stopping this the passing attack with Shadur and Travis and all those other stars. Also, Colorado's got a pretty good rushing attack. Well, I say that, but when they've needed to pull it out, I guess they've only got like 80 yards a game, so statistically it's not great. But I've seen some flashes. Texas Tech's rushing defense isn't great either. It's like 150 something allowed a game. So I'm going to take Colorado to win this. And I think they just win by 6 or 7 probably. I think I'm gonna take Colorado. Uh, I think I'm gonna take them 33-27.
Okay. Now, do
So
you want to just so that's a 6 point differential? You want to just put the banner up as wins by six, or you want to commit to that exact score?
I would say win by 6. I think they cover. I won't let that be set in stone. I forgot I'm the one who doesn't like to give score predictions because it makes you look stupider than you actually are. I
Mm.
think they win by 6 though. They definitely
Okay.
cover, but I think they only win by 6 or 7. So
Okay.
uh,
So uh, Chase, aka Lane Limpin, has Colorado winning at Texas Tech by six this weekend.
all right.
Okay. Big 12 implications.
Shadur Sandy.
Oh,
See
yeah.
what he can do.
So I guess,
Terrible defense. He's about to look like Heisman material, no doubt.
well, I guess
On to
since
your
we're
game.
on the Lane, calm yourself. I guess since we're on the Big 12, I'll go ahead and do my Big 12 game. We did two Big 12 matchups because of, as we mentioned earlier, the conference title implications.
Now, look, we start going too fast with this podcast. I'm gonna have to start pretending like my legs are hurting or something.
So now I'm going to talk about Iowa State at Kansas. Yes, Iowa State at Kansas. People out there watching would probably be like, "Oh, what kind of pick is that for a limited game
That's what
preview?"
I'm
Well,
saying.
once again,
What an
these
idiot,
are
this guy.
Lane. Hush. Anyway, um, so here's the thing: Kansas has a losing record, not a great record. They're 2-6, but they've lost every game to a pretty good team close. All of their losses are close losses to pretty good teams. So I think Kansas is dangerous. Iowa State is coming into Kansas. Um, and okay, the argument could be made that, oh, well, Iowa State just had a, heartbreaking loss against Texas Tech. They're going to go into Kansas and bounce back. Well, you know, it's two-way street. So I think there's potential for upset in this game, but not just that. The thing about it is once again, we have the Big 12 second spot for the title game is a toss up right now. So every Big 12 game for Colorado and Iowa State moving forward, even Kansas State, these are important. So, and there's not, compared to the other slate of games out there right now for this weekend, there's not anything with much more weight to it. We based our picks on like the weight of the game. Um, but anyway, so Iowa State, they had a close loss against Texas Tech. I think Iowa State's been kind of overrated all year long. I don't think they're really a playoff contender. No offense to the Cyclone fans out there. I just don't think they ever were. Um, they hurt themselves with turnovers, kind of killed themselves against Texas Tech with turnovers. That's kind of was the definitive factor on why they lost. Um, and I just don't think they were ready to play Texas Tech. So, and maybe it was just a good matchup, but Iowa State going to Kansas. So Iowa State has a pretty stout rushing offense. And get my notes here. So they got a strong run game. They have a 1-2 punch, pretty good duo in the backfield. Henson and Sama the third, um, both averaging over 5 yards a carry. They have a good run game. But on the flip side, Iowa State's run defense is fairly weak. They're ranked pretty low, and their average rushing yards allowed. They let Taj Brooks run all over them, which is important because Kansas, that's where their offense is centered. So Kansas has a pretty good rushing attack. They have a really good running back in Neal, and they also have a second back, which is Highshaw Jr. So two good running backs. Uh, Kansas's passing game is pretty bad. Their quarterback Daniels, he's a good athlete, not a very good passer. Kansas also doesn't have great pass protection. It's pretty decent, but it's not great. Um, and Iowa State has a good pass defense. They got a stout passing defense. So I think this is going to be a ground and pound game for these teams. Um, I think Iowa State is going to have an edge in passing because they're pretty decent in passing over Kansas. I think they're going to have a good edge over Kansas in that sense. Um, Kansas statistically has a pretty good pass defense, but only against teams that are bad at passing statistically. Every good passing offense they've played has lit them up. So Kansas just has, they don't have a great defense. They just don't have a great defense, and I think that's the main reason they've been losing these games. Um, it's going to be a run centric game. Uh, I think the problem for Iowa State is their tackling has been sloppy. You can't do that in a run centric game, especially. They've been turning the ball over recently. Their quarterback Becht has been turning the ball over quite a bit in their previous games. He's been forcing it. Um, but push comes to shove. I think we got a pretty good matchup. I think it's going to be a tough game, but I think because of Kansas's defensive problems, I think Iowa State pulls it out. I think Iowa State pulls the bounce back on Kansas. I think it starts out a good close game, and I think Iowa State kind of runs away with it late in the game. So I think it's a dangerous game. I think this could be a trap game for Iowa State. This is a dangerous game. So, but I'm taking Iowa State. Uh, I'm going to take Iowa State to win this one by 10.
Mm.
So I think Iowa State takes it. Bit of a mouthful, but I had to do a lot of research on these two teams to do them justice. But
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably take Iowa State as well. Kansas has just been a shell of what they were the past couple seasons. So,
Right there, like I said, I think it's
especially
a
last
dangerous game
season.
for Iowa State. I think it's a dangerous
So,
game, but I think Iowa State's going to have that motivation for a comeback. I think Beck is going to clean up his play. He's a very good athletic quarterback. And I think it's just going to be mainly ground and pound. And I think, yeah, the big what makes the difference is big pass plays for Iowa State to run away with it. Um, because Kansas just they don't have the defense to stop them. So
so do we move on to next game?
Cyclones, baby. Yeah, go ahead and move on to the next one.
So
I'll
the
let you
next
take it.
game is we're covering is ugh ugh ugh
Ooga,
at Ole Miss.
ooga.
So this one is obviously this one can be an argument for game of the week, but for
I
this
don't think
one,
Ole Miss is playing for enough, honestly.
I mean, Ole Miss is playing for keeping themselves playoff, but like potential, like obviously Georgia is either Georgia is they can still make it to the playoffs even with a loss, lost Ole Miss here, but Ole Miss they still have a chance at the playoffs as a 10-2 SEC team, but there's no way they make it as a 9-3 SEC team. This one's a complicated game because statistically, Ole Miss literally has like everything on Georgia going into this game. They have the better rush defense, they have the better pass defense, they have the better uh, pass offense, or I mean, they have better like just offense all around. But here's the thing: I know
Statistically.
I know people don't like to hear this, but it's the truth. If you go and you look at what teams Ole Miss has played, those stats are heavily padded by Furman, Middle Tennessee State, or whatever. Like they're just complete no-name teams that they drop 70 points on because Lane Kiffin needs to pad his stats as much as possible in those games. That's why he runs them up by 70 points. That's why he's got Jackson Dart still chucking the ball in the fourth quarter against Furman.
Hmm.
Don't quote me on that. Don't know if that's true. I just assume because I don't see any other team dropping 77, other than Tennessee on those no-name teams. But
Stat padding and faking injuries.
I'll give them
What a
credit.
guy.
They did drop 63 on Arkansas,
Yeah.
and that came to a bit of a shock. Came to me as a bit of a shock. And they handily beat South Carolina. That was a good game. So their defense showed up against um, South Carolina, but their offense didn't show up against Kentucky whatsoever. Um, you know, they got handled pretty well by LSU too. LSU's defense stood out, and I don't think LSU's defense is better than Georgia's. So the thing is, though, is that a big thing, obviously, and we're not going to be able to get away from the game without saying this, and it's Carson Beck. What the hell has he been doing? Like what he's just. I mean, I think he's got the most picks in the FBS in the past 6 games. I mean, he's averaging. You know, I think he's averaging nearly two. I think he's at 11. Maybe he's at like 12 or 13 picks total on the season. No, I think he's at 11 picks total on the season. He's at 11 picks total on the season, and that's in what 8 games at this point. I mean, the dude is just—it's been rough.
I think that's the most, from what I saw somewhere, that's the most interceptions so far in a season of any quarterback under Smart.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, even I mean, in his first 17 games starting, he threw for like 31 touchdowns and 6 picks. In the last 5 games, he's thrown for 10 touchdowns and 11 picks. So that's gonna. And the thing is I know it wasn't really a determining factor against Texas, but the difference is I do think Ole Miss is definitely more explosive than Texas for sure. I mean, uh,
Yeah, probably.
but the thing about this game, Ole Miss also hasn't beat it on third downs. Their third down defense has been great. They're like, I think they're way up there in third down defense, whereas Georgia's way down there. They've struggled in third down conversion because they've just been stuck in a lot of third and longs, and a lot of those third and longs have turned into picks. So I do think that it comes down to Beck to some degree. I think he can get away with 1 or 2 picks, but I think if he has another three turnover game, Georgia's in trouble. It'll be in Oxford, but here's the thing. I think this game, and then my favorite word comes back up, and I guess it's my word of the day, sentiment. I think it's another game of sentiment. I know that Ole Miss is a fighting animal in their hometown, but Lane Kiffin has been in this position plenty of times and has never delivered. He's 0-4 against top 5 teams. Georgia's like 5-1 against top 5 teams under Kirby Smart. Especially, I think that's in the past since like 2020, I think.
And they're downplaying the sentiment that Kirby has behind them because they're playing
They're playing for the SEC
it's do or
championship.
die for
Like
Kirby now.
you lose another SEC game, you're out the
You're probably
championship.
out. Yeah,
It's too competitive right now.
the SEC champ.
So
Yeah.
so I really think that
And we all know what Kirby's dogs are like when they've got a do or die fire under their butts. So
well, I just think that's kind of what it is that Kirby Smart has yet to disappoint in a big
we
game.
saw that at Texas.
Even against Alabama, still didn't have a full 4-quarter bad game. They had a bad first half, but they came out there and almost won in the second half. So Kirby Smart finds a way to come out and play big games, well. And Lane Kiffin does the opposite. I think in his big games, I think in those 4 straight losses he's had against top 5 teams, he's losing by like an average of like 22 points a game too. Like that's the average margin in those games. And I know this game was in Athens last season, and this isn't the same Georgia team per se, but I mean he went in there and he got beat 52-17. I don't think that's happening this time. I don't think Georgia just absolutely managed because I think Georgia hurts themselves with turnovers. I really do. I just don't. Beck has shown no improvement whatsoever in the interceptions. He says that he's got to fix it, but he just won't. So I think what we do is I think though Georgia's defense once again is going to come out there. Lane Kiffin can never figure out a way to get the offense rolling against stout SEC defenses. He always struggles. And I think he's just going to have another 3-loss, 4-loss season, and one of those losses being Georgia. I'm going to take Georgia to win just because I think Georgia's going to have the coaching edge in this. I don't think this one's a huge blowout. I think Georgia keeps Ole Miss in the game through turnovers. So I need to mention also Ole Miss is missing their starting running back as well, which is going to hurt them. Granted, their backup has been solid, but they're missing him. Jordan Watkins has stepped up and done a good job as well, but I just don't see Ole Miss.
Against Georgia, yeah, that
I
might
don't
be a
I don't see
problem.
I don't see them producing enough against Georgia. I think they'll score over 20. But I think Georgia scores a little over 30. And forces I think Ole Miss is pretty much nearly shut out in the second half. So I think Ole Miss, like usual, probably gets up on Georgia early, and Georgia comes out and beats up in the second half. Maybe even Georgia just dominates the whole game, like Texas. I say that because they were 23-0 going into the half against Texas. So I have more faith in Kirby Smart. Both coaches have been in this situation multiple times, and only one coach has ever even succeeded in this situation, and Kirby Smart's done it every time, almost every time, again, unless it was Alabama. So I'm going to take Georgia to win, and I think Georgia wins by 7. I think they win by a touchdown, which would mean they cover as well. So
Lane
and I will
Limpin,
say,
poor
I
old
say win
Lane
by a
Limpin.
touchdown, but I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia wins by more, just because this is just what they seem to. I don't know. They seem to just. I don't want to use that excuse, and I'm
They
not because
always show
I
up in the
still don't.
big games.
I still don't think this is a good trait of a team, but they seem to play to their competition, and I don't think that's a good trait. But I guess until I'm proven otherwise Saturday, I'll just continue to believe it. So
Yeah, I think that's pretty good thing about Georgia this year is they've been playing to their competition. They've been matching the play of their competition from lesser teams to bigger teams. So it's weird, but
also just the picks too. I mean, there's no telling how good this team would actually be if Carson Beck could keep the ball
yeah,
on
if
their side
Beck
of the
cleans
field.
up his turnovers, outside of that, he's statistically still doing great. It's the turnovers killing Georgia's offense. So we'll see.
So
But Lane Limpin has UGA beaten Limpin Miss by
and
7
because my
points.
ability to fake injuries is being hindered, that's why I'm definitely taking Georgia over Ole
Yeah,
Miss. So I know
sorry,
Georgia's
Ole
not up.
Miss.
I know Georgia's not up tempo, but
momentum killer either way. But all right, so that's what we got for the UGA Ole Miss game, big SEC matchup. All right, so I guess I'll throw my game on there next. My second game is an ACC matchup that has some implications, believe it or not. It's Clemson at Virginia Tech. Another one of those games where people are like, are we still talking about Clemson? Really? At Virginia Tech? What kind of pick is that? Well, look at the conference standings. Clemson is not totally out of the picture for the ACC championship yet, and every ACC game they play is important. I think the reason I picked this game is because Clemson is saving their season. Like this moving forward, Clemson has to save their season. And they still have a shot at the ACC title game um, because you never know who might win or lose moving forward. So, their destiny for that sense is not completely in their hands, but they're still trying to save their season. Um, and if Clemson wins out and then they win out convincingly enough, they could still get a foot in the playoffs. So, and I think this game is big because Virginia Tech is a good opponent. They're going to be at Virginia Tech. They got to bounce back from the Louisville loss. Um, so the thing about these two teams is Clemson. We know Clemson has an excellent offense. I don't think Clemson came prepared to play Louisville. I think they slept on Louisville. I think it's kind of the same situation that happened with Georgia at Tuscaloosa this year. They weren't prepared. They overlooked them, and they got beat pretty bad by a good Louisville team. But I think Clemson has an excellent offense. They got explosive playmakers. They got weapons on the edge. Cade Klubnik, I think, is arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and they protect him very well. So, the dude makes plays. He shows out. Their, defense has been kind of mid this season. Their defense, and I think it's more so the depth. The depth at defense. Clemson has been struggling with depth this season. So they have to stay healthy. And they have to that defense, they've had trouble tackling. Their rush defense is kind of weak. So they got to clean that up and get better, especially playing Virginia Tech, who has a very good rushing attack. They have one of the best running backs in the country in Tootin. A little funny name for you. It's Tuten, by the way. Um, they've got a really good run game. Uh, Ironically, they have a weak rushing defense. And not very good pass protection either. Like Virginia Tech, Rose is a very athletic quarterback, and he can make plays, but they don't protect him very well. It seems. Um,
Don't
and
let's also mention though, Virginia Tech also 4 losses, but all 4 losses were within a score. Very close games, and in fact, one of those losses was to Miami, who the playoff committee seems to be high on for no reason whatsoever. So I mean that's 4-point loss to Miami as well. So they kept it close against Miami.
and that's
They took it to
very
overtime
yeah,
with Vanderbilt, who I think is a solid team. So
and that's a very important point. I'm glad you interjected that because people sleep on Virginia Tech. They're a good team this year. They really are. So don't underestimate them, and I hope Dabo doesn't. So they're top 50 in pass defense. Clemson is a top, like one of the top 10 passing offenses in the country. They also have a really good rushing attack. They have one of the best running backs in college football. It's, Phil
yeah,
Maffa.
he's had a hell of a
Dude's a
season.
machine. He's a machine.
Like he just ran, even though they lost pretty poorly against Louisville. He
He
still
ran
ran
all
for like
over Louisville. Yeah.
150 something yards.
So this is going to be another one of those games where I think it's going to be decided by, well, let me not get too ahead of myself because Virginia Tech, their rushing defense is pretty bad, and their passing defense is all right. It's not great. Um, I'll say this: both have great rushing attacks. Both have sussy defenses because Clemson really has a sus defense as well.
They let Louisville run all over them as well. So
but I think Cade Klubnik is a better quarterback than Rose. I think Clemson has a more well-rounded offense and probably just an inch better defense. Virginia Tech is pretty much one-dimensional, and I think Virginia Tech's one-dimensionality is going to be their, undoing. Which, with saying that, I'm going to take Clemson to win this. I think with what they have to play for, um, and people have been doubting Dabo. He hasn't been doing the best job ever, not up to his standard previously. But I think this is going to be a comeback win for Clemson. They've still got a lot to play for. Virginia Tech's a good opponent, can't sleep on them, but they're somewhat one dimensional against good teams. Their offense is. They're very heavily rely on the rushing offense, but Clemson's rushing defense is not great, so they may not need to be a two-dimensional offense. But I think the better offense wins this game, and I think Clemson has a better offense. So um, I'm going to take Clemson to win this one.
Right.
And I think Clemson wins this one by the same amount Uga wins theirs, or from your prediction. I think
By
Clemson beats
30.
Virginia Tech by 7. Yep. I think Clemson wins by 7. Yep.
All right. So then we might as well get on to the final game, which is game of the week, and I think it's a lot of people's game of the week.
Mm-hmm. Really
Bammer
big game.
at LeSue.
The Tide versus the Tigers.
Go Tag.
Go Tigers.
All right. I don't know where
Let's
we even
talk
start
about it.
with this game. Jalen Milroe. I don't like him. No, I'm kidding. Um, this is one of those games I 100% think is up to quarterback play, because you got two
Yeah.
quarterbacks who could come out here and just blow a hole in this thing. Um,
You've got a
and
quarterback. You got a quarterback who could tear open defenses with his legs, and a quarterback that can tear open defenses with his arm.
the
So
issue
the
is
question
here
is,
though is that
who's going to be?
Nussmeier is coming off of a not so great performance against A&M, where I believe he threw multiple picks. I think he threw like 2 or 3. I think he threw 3. He threw 3 picks against Texas A&M, and you do that, you're losing this game. You just are. So, um, Alabama's defense hasn't been great. The rushing attack hasn't been great, but they can produce when necessary, I think. Um,
I mean, both of these teams have very explosive offenses, and I think that's what we're going to see.
the thing is like LSU has crazy good like passing offense, but they're like in the hundreds or something like that in rushing yards. They just cannot produce like rushing,
Yeah,
which I mean,
they're a pretty
honestly,
one-dimensional offense. Sadly,
neither neither can like neither can Alabama. You know, I mean, Alabama is like I think they're like 177 a game or something like that in rushing, and I just don't think that's all that great. So,
I
I
think
think they're in top 50 in both passing and, but like LSU's top 10 in almost top 5 in passing. So like that young Alabama secondary has their work cut out for them against Kyron Lacey and Nussmeier. So I think it's all up to that if you can get. The thing is though is that can Alabama force LSU to be one dimensional? Can they stop that run? And
I think a bigger question is who's going to get the most pressure on the quarterback. LSU is way better statistically and over the course of the season at getting to the
yeah,
quarterback and getting sacks. Alabama
see,
struggled.
that is the
Alabama
problem
has
with
struggled on
that is
that.
the problem with Alabama though. It's like getting pressure isn't on Alabama isn't just enough. You got to get
Right,
pressure
because
in the right
Milrow can
ways.
beat you with his legs. Exactly.
So and LSU once Marcel Reed for A&M came in, another dual threat, he just torched them. Question is, maybe LSU wasn't prepared for that because they were prepared for Wigman. And it just kind of fell apart when Reed came in. I think they'll be more prepared for sure against Milroe because I think going into this game, Milroe is a little more one-dimensional than Marcel Reed. Well, at least relative to the idea of the game coming in, because like Marcel Reed, I don't think is great. I don't think he's all that amazing either at like the short range game. But we know for a fact Milroe struggles at the short and mid range game, and he has this
Right.
season. He's had a lot of struggles with that. I said that he would, and he did. I mean, dude can throw a deep ball like anybody else. I say that like you know what I mean. Like he just has an incredible deep ball. And he's insane on his legs. He's like the fastest dude on the field anywhere he goes. So it's going to be
So LSU,
really,
they have to
really
be able to
difficult.
get to him and contain him. And they have to be able to collapse the pocket on Milroe consistently. But their explosive plays is going to dictate this game. Explosive plays is going to be what dictates this game because that's what Alabama will eat you up
Yep.
at.
And I'm going to tell
So
you right
can
now,
LSU contain those explosive plays, or have they had problems with that?
I don't think they contain the explosive plays. And I'm going to be honest. I'm just going to go based off of their last game against A&M. They couldn't do it against A&M. They couldn't stop Marcel Reed running, and I don't think it's something that you just fix in 2 weeks. So I think the big explosive plays are going to be. I think Ryan Williams is definitely going to have a good game. I think Milroe is going to get those bombs downfield, and I think Milroe is going to use his legs. So I honestly, I know it's in Death Valley and LSU's still a good team, but I've been stuck on the idea that I think Bama's going to win out and go 10-2. So I think they beat LSU, and they haven't shown me anything. I mean, LSU's coming off of a bad loss. Bama's coming off of a very good bounce back win against Missouri, and I know Missouri ended up being a paper tiger.
No pun intended, or
Yeah,
was
but
it?
I really think that I think Bama takes this one. I think Milroe has an explosive game. I'm not going to say great game. He has an explosive game, though. I think he gets the explosive plays when necessary with both his legs and his deep ball. So he's going to be hitting Ryan Williams a few times, I think, for big plays. So I think I'm going to take Alabama to win, and I think Alabama wins by. I'm going to take Alabama to win by. You know what? Why not? Another touchdown game. I think they win by a touchdown this game. So
So
seven
you think
points.
Alabama wins by a touchdown?
Yeah. I actually think they could possibly win by more, but it's in Death Valley, so I think that's going to play a big part. So I think they
Mm,
win by a tutty.
I don't know. I don't want to sleep on LSU though. And it's confusing because they haven't played a lot of common opponents, so it's kind of a shot in the dark in a lot of things. Um,
Yeah, that's kind of why I base it off of a common, like an opponent that is common to who they're playing, and like
South Carolina is, I think, the only common opponent they've played. And yeah, South Carolina just torched LSU on the ground. Um, and LSU couldn't really get anything going. They got over 100 rushing yards, but under 300 passing yards on uh, South Carolina, which South Carolina's
that game
defense
was
I think is
that whole
better than
that whole game was a
Alabama.
mess. South Carolina killed themselves, and
South
also
Carolina turned the
Bradford
ball
Rain was
over.
pretty rough.
Yeah, they turned the ball over 3 times, and I think that kind of that obvious and bad calls,
Let's not forget the pick
potentially.
six
Yeah.
that Nussmeier threw that got called back.
So we have, a lot of circumstantial things here with LSU. So that being their only common opponent, right? Alabama,
Oh, I think
considering
it's going to be a
everything,
close game.
yeah, it's going to be a close game. And considering everything we talked about, um,
I think explosive
Alabama,
plays happen on each side. I just think that like the connection between Milroe and Ryan Williams, and on top of Milroe's legs, I think is just those are going to produce bigger explosive plays.
I think mm, LSU has one of the best passing offenses, one of the best quarterbacks, but a one-dimensional offense, and their defense, they have a really good pass rush. But as you mentioned, pass rush is not the, absolute
Mm.
for a team playing against Milroe because okay, you can get to the backfield, but can you get to Milroe? Can you get him down?
Yeah, it's not about getting to the backfield; it's about playing the backfield right when it comes to Milroe. So you
Right.
got to really force him to stay in that pocket. You can't let him find that crease. So,
Mhm.
and like I said, Marcel Reed was doing that to LSU. He was finding those creases and tearing them apart. So I
And
think
I
they'll be
think
more prepared, but I think they're going to be so focused on Milroe that Ryan Williams opens up a little bit, and then I think also Bama's actual run game opens up. I think if it comes down to whichever team needs to produce more on the ground, it's going to be Bama.
yeah, I was going to say the same thing earlier, and I think Bama. I think they're a little more hardened and battle tested against better opponents. That being Georgia, who they beat, and Tennessee, who they lost to, but circumstances are different. They also beat South Carolina, who LSU arguably shoulda, coulda, woulda lost to. So I think Bama, yeah, I think Bama's a squeak better. And I think, as you said, I think it's just Bama is just more explosive on offense and LSU being one dimensional. If Bama can create a scheme where they can shut down LSU's run game and contain their secondary, if Alabama's secondary can do their job, which is a young and
It's a
not
big
so great
question, yeah.
secondary. So I think it's going to be a shootout. I think we're going to have a shootout. And I think Milroe is going to have a really good game. I think LSU is going to have trouble containing him. Um, and I think the big play Ryan Williams, busted play, you
He's
know,
17, by the way.
he's 17 years old. Don't forget that. Combined with Milroe's, once the teams get tired, Milroe, if he starts using his legs successfully, and this defense is not LSU's defense is not South Carolina and Tennessee's defenses. So I think I agree. I think Kalen DeBoer and Bama pull it out. I think Bama pulls it out.
And if he
Um,
doesn't, we're going to be hearing Bama fans whine some more about, oh, Kalen Moore's not the right, we're falling apart. So
so how much did you have them winning by?
I said 7. I think they win by a touchdown. I think it comes down to like fourth quarter play, whoever can get that last big play, and I think Bama's the one who gets it. So
Hmm. I'm going to take them by 3. So I guess that means should we take the average? Take
or
5.
just
Say
put both. Yeah, we
Bama
can say
wins by
Bama wins
5.
by 5.
This is what I'll do. I'll say you know what? Actually, I'll take Bama by a last minute walk off. I'll take Bama by a winning
Well,
touchdown
walk-off
drive.
would be 6 points, so just remember that.
Um, hmm. Let's take them by 6. What do you think? Take 'em by 6.
I'm fine with that.
All right. So the game of the week, Talk-Ons has predicted, which is Bama at LSU. We've taken Bama to win by 6. We
Bama
think
wins.
think Bama's going to pull it out and make it
And
happen.
Roll Tide Willie's going to be having a hell of a weekend.
Yes, sir. Can't we love to see it? Can't wait to hear
They don't
from
give
him.
a piss about nothing but the
The
Tide, baby.
Tide.
The Tide.
All right. Well, that's our previews and picks
There it
episode
is.
for today, guys. We're making better time than usual. Not what we were shooting for, but hey, it is what it
Well,
is.
I
But
guess
thank
we,
you for
yep.
watching. If you stuck around and saw the picks and previews, and we can't wait for you to see how objectively correct we are.
Well, Yep, like you said, thanks for watching. And yeah, we'll see how these games turn out. And hopefully, we can get to our reactions on Tuesday. So,
next Tuesday, which will be a just a re-rank and a playoff update on our playoff projection, both in the same video, maybe separately.
wait, actually, I just thought about something, which
Pick and choose.
we may need to squeeze
So,
it in a different day because I'll be out of town Tuesday. But
well, we'll figure something out for our loyal fans because we're professionally unprofessional and consistently inconsistent. So, anyway,
sure.
this has
All
been
right.
the Talk-Ons. I am your co-host Cam Scatterboys
And I'm your
with
other co-host, Lane Limpin. Hopefully, there's not a lot of that in the game Saturday. So,
we'll see. But
I guess we'll
anyway,
be signing off.
thanks for watching, guys, and hope we see a good weekend of football. Subscribe, hit the bell, like the video, comment, do all that good stuff, and tune in for more coming down the road. Okay. Thanks for
Bye
watching,
bye.
guys. Nothing but the time.